Hello everyone, this is Renault, and I'm going to go ahead and be doing a comic book review today. But before we get started on that, hello Joker, good fortune to you. Hello Plastic Plants, good fortune to you for bringing color in my life while I'm sitting at my desk. Good fortune to Blake Northcott, and her pretty good book. And I just want people to see this. This is a artwork by Akayama, and I don't know his first name, and I apologize for that. But his insignia is DNA, so I think maybe his name is Dan or something. But anyway, this is a good. I usually have the other side facing, so people don't generally get to see this. But good fortune to you, Blake Northcott, and of course that cover artist. And good fortune to Vinnie Tartamella. And this is going to be a review of City of the Venus, Dead City. Now, in case you're not familiar with Vinnie Tartamella's work, he's actually been quickly becoming a big fan of his. His previous series was Through the Woods, a 3-book series that is no longer on Indiegogo, but it's good, from what I've heard from Professor Geek. And he also did a couple of art books. So let's just get started with the cover. In case you may remember from my previous review or not, the cover is amazing quality. I like touching it. And so, and it's something similar with the paper. The paper is good quality. But this is just a joy to touch. Nice little signature here. I do have to mention, and this is something I talked about in my when I did a quick review of his art book. The book did come a bit damaged, which is a shame because that's not because I've been handling it. It's just it came that way. The packaging wasn't great. It was okay, but not up to the task. So that's pretty unfortunate, but the book itself looks and feels great. And I'm just going to do a couple of page reviews. Here's a nice little introduction to Vinnie Tartamella. Here's some info about... So we're going to get started with seeing our protagonist. The protagonist is waking up from a coma or unconsciousness. And you can see the dead city in the background here. She's just waking up. She has no idea what's going on. She recognizes that there's a strange device as she's looking at her arm. And as she's looking at her arm, she spots another person. So, of course, she goes to investigate. She says, hey, I'm going to go talk to that person down there. Now, this is an okay start to a story. It's not great. It's not very dynamic. But it does allow us to be uninformed. It allows her to be caught by surprise so that, if something happens, there's no plot holes about, well, why didn't she know this? Why didn't she see this coming? So it's not very dynamic, but it is a pretty commonly used way to introduce an individual. They've got no memories. Something strange has happened. And so they meet. And so it kind of reminds me of the old Wimpy from Popeyes. Hey, let's you and him fight. Except they don't fight. I'm not really going to go over the words because I can't zoom in, and so there's not really a whole lot of point in going over that too much. My camera phone just does not zoom in very well. But as you can see in the background, there's a zombie-like creature. There's a zombie-like creature. We don't know if it's his actual zombie or not. But they work together. Excuse me. When she gets ambushed by that zombie-like creature, she gets tossed a little bit. You can see she's dropping her weapon. And so, I'll save you. And this woman in blue, her name is Jessica. So Jess will not allow her new person to get killed. So she shoots the gun to save her. But, of course, not knowing what's going to happen, boom, explosion. Now, there is something interesting that there's little clues letting us know something is going on. So if we look back, she's grabbing the gun, this thing is doing a click, and she's confused about how she was able to use the gun because there has a DNA lock. And now they have to get out of there because it's going to attract the attention of more zombie-like creatures. So I'm going to skip a couple of pages. Well, more like I'm going to skip one page. So we are introduced to our third person in the story. This woman, Captain Uriel. Now, previously I did give a slight critique of Vinnie Tartamella. I said that his women's faces tend to look very similar, at least in his art book. So if you look at her face, and you look at her face, you can see that they're different facial structures, and it kind of makes sense. She's well-fed. She's, she has access to things. She has a little bit more of a disheveled face, thinner, etc. So I don't know if that's why she has that those rounder features, but at least they do look different. And I have to admit I like that the women's faces look different. Let me skip some pages. I don't think Vinnie Tartamella would copyright strike it, but I don't want to spoil the hell out of everything. So, here. So, Captain Uriel was there to collect samples of the zombie-like creatures, but something I want to point out is that, look at this zombie getting its head blown off as they fight Captain Uriel's forces, and look at this zombie. This zombie looks at her, or him, or whatever this zombie is. So there is an awareness, there's a sentience among them. They are aware of each other. They're not just mindless zombies. And so, as you can see, as the Captain Uriel's forces are fighting off the zombie creatures, Jess and the woman in red, whose name I forget, are sneaking off. And so then, for unknown reason, Jess's little arm wristband thing starts signaling an alarm and alerting the guards. And so Jess, she's not going to take this crap. She fights. She's a strong woman. And we don't necessarily need too much of a justification for this. I know Zach talks about the 95-pound woman taking out armored guards and everything, but we can see that there's artificial enhancements here. There's mechanical enhancements to the people. So it's not that big of a deal here. But there is something I want to mention about the art in two spots. If you look at the woman in red, her hips are a little bit wonky. And then there's something else with the lettering here. If you look at when the little wristband is going off, it's making a small ee noise. And then when the guard is getting a knee to the face, you get a big, strong whap. I would have preferred it if the ee was in a different color. Like maybe red, if it was a red alert, or green, or blue, or something, just to give it a contrast between the various sound effects, because the sound effects do have a very similar, they're all kind of orangish, yellowish. And so, or this could have been like red here, the whap, and the whap could have been a little bit smaller. I just would have preferred that this ee noise, the signaling alarm, was bigger and more dramatic. Because, anyway. So, I do want to also point out that when the guard is fighting Jess, when one of the guards shoots her wrist, it does fall off. That's an important little story point. Let me skip a couple more pages. Sorry, just a second. Okay, so let me just go here so I can quickly comment. So Captain Uriel, she's not like one of those sinister captains or sinister leaders. She doesn't leave her injured person behind because, you know, Jess messed those people up. One of them gets really injured in the scuffle, so she doesn't abandon them. She also spots that bracelet thing that fell off of Jess's arm. It's very unusual in that it's ancient, so to speak, over 200 years old. And then there's something else that I think kind of takes away, is these three bottom panels. Well, not necessarily take away, but they don't add anything. Is this panel, and this panel. Now, when the zombie creature is going, oh, it kind of indicates, or no, it's saying help, but it kind of indicates a sentience, you know? But we already saw that these creatures had a sentience when the one zombie creature noticed that the other zombie creature was getting shot in the head. So this kind of doesn't necessarily need to be done. And also, it could function as a blink and you miss it, because that is the sort of thing that's easy to miss. It's like blink and you miss it, and you don't realize that they're sentient. And I expected this guy to do something really evil, like crush her head, because he does have that malevolent look, you know, with the red eye patch and the whatever. But I'm going to skip the next page, but take my word for it, nothing happens. He doesn't do anything really sinister, so I don't think these three bottom panels add anything. Let me skip a couple more pages. Correction, let me skip one page to this spread here. This is amazing. I really like what he's done here. This is one of those things where I wish it was a double page spread. It's just a single page. So, but again, economy of space. You can't have a double page spread if, you know, you don't have the page budget for it. You know, I don't know how else to describe it, but he doesn't have the space for it. This is just Captain Uriel returning to the city in the sky. Now let's see, do I need to skip anything else? Nope. We're just going to go to the next page. And so they're landing in the city here. And there's another little critique about the lettering here. So this is Captain Uriel. She's saying, why didn't I get any response? I called for help and nobody came. We had to struggle to get out of there. And then the leader says, Lady Miranda. But again, I wish, and it's in red, to kind of symbolize anger. But this is another thing where I would have preferred it if she is shouting, that it would have been larger and stood out a little more than the rest. Or if maybe she's not shouting, but to show that she's kind of like an otherworldly creature, just have all of her text in red. And lastly, American people are used to reading from left to right and then down. So I was reading it like this, and then I read this text bubble before I read this Lady Miranda text bubble, but this should have been lowered. If you look at the panel, there is space to have lowered this text bubble and then move this one to the left and make it bigger and bolder so that it would direct my eye a little bit better. But anyway, if you look at her, she's either an alien or enhanced or some kind of not like everyone else. And she's chewing out Captain Uriel because Uriel essentially failed in her mission. Uriel was supposed to collect a sample. She retreated before she collected a sample. And so the injured soldier is going to be enhanced or have some experiments taken. And Captain Uriel is essentially fired. She's dismissed. So Uriel said, not Uriel, but do we even get the name of the lady? Yeah, no, we don't actually get the leader's name. Just Your Majesty. So she's going to prepare Lieutenant James Tannen for Project 16. And Captain Uriel is essentially just demoted, fired. And so, let's just go to the next page. So, Captain Uriel is upset because, she didn't take my report. She wasn't interested in the findings. I found this weird, bizarro lock, and Her Majesty was not at all interested. And so Captain Uriel is going to investigate all on her own. Now, there is one thing I do want to also mention. There's this camera eye. So she's being watched, but I'm not sure who's watching her. I would like to say maybe it's the guy with the red eye, but again, his eye was red. This is just like the reflection in a mirror, so it's nice artistically, but it doesn't really serve a purpose. Let me skip a couple more pages. Again, I just want to make sure I don't get copyright struck, which is something Edwin Boyette likes to do, because Edwin Boyette is a scumbag. So they go back to the Rebel base, Rebel headquarters, Rebel location. And so they do their introductions. But there's clearly something in the air, something going on, because they have to get injected to protect themselves from whatever it is that's taking place. So she's getting her blood levels tested. Jess is the remains of the bracelet, or the undercover of the bracelet, is starting to infect her arm or do something to her arm, shocking everyone. It gets pretty nasty. So, last page is Captain Uriel. She's looking at the promoted lieutenant. He's being enhanced because of his injuries were pretty severe when he was in the fight with Jess, and some other stuff happened. So she's looking at it and she's just shocked. I can't believe I'm sorry. So, again, I like that they show that she's not a monstrous kind of leader or person. But, yeah. That's my quick review. And so then there's just a little bit of layout. I want to focus on that last, not quite page, but the ending here. This is some of Vinnie Tartamella's other work. There's Through the Woods, like I mentioned earlier. The Art of Vinnie Tartamella. Now, I did get the Art of Vinnie Tartamella, and it was an okay-ish thing, but with the second volume of his art, that's when his production values greatly increased. Unfortunately, the shipping wasn't as good to match up. But, again, I highly recommend you get the Art of Vinnie Tartamella Volume 2, because the production value on that is amazing. Just like the production value on this is amazing. God, I'm not kidding when I say I love touching this. It's just because it's good. It's a good stock. And the page... Oh yeah, I said I was going to talk about the page. The page stock is also very good. I don't know if Vinnie Tartamella knows people in the industry who can hook him up with the printing and everything, or if he's just operating at a loss. Hopefully not, because you deserve to be making a profit on this. But whatever it is, keep doing that. Just I hope you can get some better packaging, because this did come damaged, and my volume did come a little bit damaged. But again, I'm not going to refund it or anything like that. Anyway, this was a review. Highly recommend. City of Dead. The in-demand page on Indiegogo is still open. I will post a link to that, just so that you can get it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hit that like button. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.